Hello everyone and welcome to the Hoops Hall of Fame podcast. This is your host Matt Lehner. Today I want to talk about shooting slumps. I got asked this question probably a week and a half ago by a player who was saying he was having a struggle with shooting. And anybody who plays basketball goes through this or has gone through it. It's definitely a big issue. I got 5 specific points I want to go over that deal with shooting slumps and how you can get out of shooting slumps. Now, the first one is you have to realize that usually, I'd say 95% of the time, shooting slumps are mental, meaning that it's not actually an issue with your form. It's not an issue with anything to do with form. It has to do with what's in your mind. You're overthinking it. You're letting the misses get to you and compound in your mind, and that's causing you to miss more and more shots. Now, shooting is really all mental. Once you have the form down, once you have, the technique down, shooting really is just mental. So you have to have the presence to let go of missed shots. You miss a shot, the next one's going in. That's got to be your attitude. You got to have that confidence that no matter what's happening, no matter if you miss 10 shots in a row, that the 11th shot is going in. That's really the mental attitude of great shooters. So you have to realize that shooting slumps 95% of the time are mental. So if you're going through a shooting slump right now, it's usually something in your mind that you have to get over, and will help you do that in the rest of these points. So number 1, realize that shooting slumps are mental. Now the next one, number 2, is form correction. Sometimes there are issues with our shooting form. If we've been going through a shooting slump for a while, sometimes it pays to actually go back and look at film, record ourselves shooting, record ourselves in the games, and we'll go back and watch the form and see if there's something wrong with our form. If you have this issue, you think this may be an issue, go back and listen to my podcast that I did on the 3 main keys to shooting form, and I'll give the podcast number for that in a second. But again, so you want to make sure that your shooting form is correct. Like I said, 95% of the time it's going to be mental, but sometimes we do have shooting slump issues that deal with form. So you actually have to go back and watch your form in the games, in your workouts, and make sure that this isn't an issue. And again, that podcast that I talk about the 3 keys to shooting form is podcast number 15. So if you think this is an issue, or you find that it is an issue, go back and listen to that podcast, because one of those 3 things might be an issue if you're missing shots consistently. So again, podcast number 15, 3 major keys to shooting form. And that was number 2. Number 3 thing that you can do to help get yourself out of shooting slumps and just improve your shot in general is to have a trigger word. Now, this is something that I learned personally from Taylor Allen, creator of Elite Guard Training. He learned it from a guy by the name of JJ Redick. Now, what a trigger word is when you're shooting, you say a specific word in your mind as you're releasing the shot. Now, this does a few things. Number 1, it helps focus you in and clear your mind of any thought of missing the shot, like I said, which is usually what we're thinking if we're going through a shooting slump. It's a mental thing. So saying that trigger word in our mind actually helps eliminate any thought of missing shots. So again, that word could be anything. Some common words are swish. It's probably one of the most common. I know Taylor Allen's famous one is buckets. Money would be another one, but you could say any word. You could use literally any word. You could use red, blue, black. You could use truck, car, goat. Now, you could use literally any word you want, but the key is you want to say that word as you're releasing the shot. You can say it out loud for a while if you want to too, but again, some people might think you're weird if you're doing that in the gym. But the key is to say that word in your mind as you're releasing the shot. And again, this is something you're going to have to drill in during your workouts. So that way when you get in the game, it's second nature. Because again, we don't want to be thinking these things when we're actually playing in games. So it's one of those things that you've got to drill in while you're shooting free throws, while you're shooting jump shots in your workouts. So that way when you get in the game, it's second nature. But saying this trigger word will help eliminate any thoughts of missing shots, making shots. It eliminates that completely and zones you in on doing what you're doing, which is shooting the shot. And number 2, it also associates, hopefully as we're shooting workouts or shooting shots in our workouts and we're getting better and better, and we keep saying this trigger word, it creates an association, meaning that as we're making shots, we associate that word with making the shot. So when we say that word in our mind, we're actually visualizing the shot going in because we've been practicing it for so long. And as we're getting better, we're making shots, 80, 90% in our workout. So we're basically making every shot, and we associate that word with the mental image of the ball going through the net. So definitely something you should get into doing is saying that trigger word during your workouts. And the next one would be visualization. Now this is probably a big thing in sports psychology, visualizing. A simple thing you can do, I actually learned this specific thing from a program called Basketball Brain, which is definitely a program I recommend that you check out. It's actually, they have I think it's a 15-day audio course that you go through. Is like $7, $15. It's definitely worth the money. They're really big on mental training for shooting specifically. But they talk about visualization, where you do a specific visualization exercise where you see the hoop and then you almost like above the cylinder, and you see like a little black dot right in the center of the rim, and then you visualize the ball going through the net, and you say that trigger word, for example, swish, as the ball is going through the net, and you visualize the ball swishing through the net through that black cylinder right in the center of the rim, because that's really where we're aiming when we're shooting, is through the center of the rim. If you ask any good shooter where they're aiming, they're going to say, I don't necessarily know. But in reality, you're not aiming at the front of the rim, the back of the rim, as some coaches like to say. You're actually aiming in a little center of the rim, the center of the cylinder. And obviously, from where we're standing on the court, you can't always see that. But when we do this specific visualization exercise, we're actually visualizing the center of the rim and the ball swishing through the center of the rim as we're saying that trigger word. And you can actually practice this while you're just sitting in a chair and get 100 shots in, 100 swish shots in like 5 minutes. And this actually is almost just as effective as shooting on the court. So a very powerful visualization exercise you can do, but just visualize yourself shooting in general and swishing shots, perfect shots every time is a very powerful thing for shooting specifically, but you could do this for any part of your game or any part of your life, is visualizing perfect repetitions. And your mind can't tell the difference between something vividly imagined, which is the key word, vividly imagined, and reality. So number 4, visualization. Very good tool for practicing that trigger word. Another really good tool for practicing that trigger word, number 5, would be practicing close shots. Now this is something I learned from Taylor Allen, again. And what you do is you shoot shots where you can virtually swish the shot every single time. Now this is going to vary from player to player on your skill level, but in general it's going to be around 5-10 feet, usually closer than the free throw distance. But you want to focus on saying that trigger word and shooting shots and getting perfect swishes every time. Again, it's kind of similar to the visualization exercise, but this time we're actually doing it in real life. But we're shooting close shots because we want to obviously make the shot and swish the shot every time because we're aiming for perfect repetitions. Again, there's no rhyme and reason to this. You're not trying to shoot a certain number of shots. You're not trying to shoot from specific spots. You're just trying to swish the shot every time while practicing that trigger word. Definitely something you should do every day, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, really as much time as you got. It's not really going to fatigue you at all. You're just literally, you don't even have to jump. You just form shots from 5 to 10 feet, perfect shots, swish shots every time while practicing that trigger word as you're releasing the shot. And very, very effective for getting your form, getting your trigger word dialed in, and again, will definitely help you get out of shooting slumps. A lot of the time when we're in shooting slumps, just going to the court and shooting more shots, like actual shots, usually doesn't help. From my experience, it hasn't helped because, again, usually shooting slumps are mental. But this is a tool right here. These close shots will definitely help you get out of shooting slumps, get your confidence back, dial in that trigger word, but it should be something you're doing every day, whether you're in a shooting slump or not. It should just become a daily habit in your game that you're doing every single day. So again, I'll run through the 5 points really quick again for you guys. Number 1 key to getting out of shooting slumps is realizing that shooting slumps are 95% of the time mental. Number 2, form correction. Sometimes there is an issue with form, so we want to go back, watch the film, film ourselves shooting in practice, and go back and make sure that we're not having some sort of form issue again and again. The 3 keys to shooting form that I go over in podcast episode number 15 I'd go back and listen to that. Usually one of those three things, if we do have a form issue, it's going to be one of those three things that I list in podcast number 15. And number 3, trigger word. Make sure you develop that trigger word. Again, play around with different words for a while, see which one really gets you emotionally charged, and then use that word. And the 2 ways you can practice that trigger word are visualization, visualizing the center of the rim and the ball swishing through the net while saying that trigger word. And then number 5, saying that trigger word while we're shooting close shots within 5 to 10 feet. Perfect repetitions every time while saying that trigger word. So those are the 5 keys to getting out of a shooting slump, and I hope that helps you out. Please like, subscribe, and comment on YouTube. Really appreciate everything you guys have to say. Hope you're enjoying these podcasts, and I'll talk to all of you again tomorrow on the Hoops Hall of Fame podcast.